G'day, I'm Ben from Cash Pro Australia.
And I'm BJ from TBL Property Maintenance. And this is Lawn Care Skull Sessions. Boom!
G'day, mate. How are you?
Oh, g'day, Ben. How are you?
Not too bad. Hey, it's only the first day of the week.
Yeah, man.
At the moment.
How's everyone liking the new sounds?
Well, I've got to say that the audio is clear, but we do seem to pick up a lot of background.
The fucking birds here, bro.
Yeah, nature is my life.
They're crazy. They're going off now. I've turned the gain down, so hopefully we don't grab as many of those birds, but...
Turn the game down, turn the game up. Fuck yeah.
What do you do, man?
It sort of actually seems like it's gotten warmer in Brisbane too. It's hot, hey.
Growth is not my friend at the moment, so I thought I'd be starting to oil up the chainsaws, getting ready to rock and roll through some of these villages and cut down a heap of shit, but not to be. I think we've still got a couple of weeks left of decent growth. So
yeah, and we've still had like really good steady flow of rain, obviously. So I would have thought at this time of year that's really just going to keep things green.
Yeah.
But there is legit growth.
It's growing. I think about 35 mils in the last maybe 2 weeks.
I mean, look, I think it's good at this time of year. It'd be good if it could just back off a little.
Back the fuck up.
But at least that intense part of the season is over. It's been a very long season. We've seen a lot of businesses come into the game.
Yeah.
And, turn into great businesses only just after a few months.
Yeah.
So it's really great to see.
There's been a lot for sale as well, though. On the other end of the scale.
Businesses for sale.
Businesses for sale.
Oh, look, I think it's part and parcel with I think there's been a boom in the industry the last 24 months.
Yeah. And
only a certain percentage of those continue past that.
Yeah.
Some it's not for them or whatever happens.
Yeah.
So we'll just get into a little bit of housekeeping. So it was great to hear from Wade Woodley. Turns out he's looking to start a business.
Nice.
Listens to the Skull Sessions, reached out about something. Actually looks like he's potentially looking to buy my old Bradley Parkland.
No way.
Yeah.
Red beast.
Wanted to ask him my thoughts of it, and yeah, I mean, look, I always loved that mower.
Yeah.
Now, when I got the Skags, I do think it was an upgrade. I never ever had a problem with the quality of that build.
Yeah.
Now that mower was built in China.
It was a bit of a tank. It was pretty much, what was it? It was like a copy of something.
It was pretty much a copy of a Bobcat.
Yeah.
And like really down to a T. Like you would have it just looks like a red Bobcat.
I didn't want to say it really did look like a red Bobcat.
No, it really did. The only thing that I think I struggled with was, and you can see on our old YouTube videos, we did like jungles with that thing. But if you had like one of those really dense, thick cooch lawns, it would always bog down.
Yeah.
And I think it's another one of those American designs where they're tipping. They're just not doing the same type of mowing that we do, and it just seemed like the deck would get overwhelmed and then it would start slipping.
Yeah.
When we got our Skags and when I did the Hustler stand-on, testing, and obviously we've had the KG and some other, stand-ons and mowers, the discharge I think was much better. So that's not to say that a Bobcat would perform the same way, because it is a copy. When we did our Bobcat demo, we didn't experience any of that.
No, I think that was my first stander and my first lap bar experience.
That was crazy. Because you were always on the Clipper.
The Clipper, yeah.
So you can look back.
I had the Walker and then I had the Clipper. So
yeah. So you can everyone can look back at YouTube at some of those demos.
Yeah,
and
I'll just bang it around. It's so much it's easy. It's not a hard concept. That's why when I get new people and they're like sort of intimidated, it's it's all right. Just jump on.
Yeah, they look all El Bouquet nervous.
Yeah, just give them a bit of space and just be like, fucking go for it. Figure it out. No.
If my 9-year-old twins can do it, anyone can do it. So, and they've been doing it at least since I was 6 or 7.
Yeah.
No, it was nice to hear from Wade Woodley. Also, Michelle from
yeah.
LMCA. I saw, and she's really early on in her business. Like, I only think started up this year.
Yeah.
Putting on her first employee.
Very cool. And then she said she's got a third one ready to roll in as well if she needs it. And I'm like, fucking, where do you find all these fucking people?
And, I mean, the great news is that, you're heading into the off-season as well. So being able to support your first worker is I think it's great. Now, today we are actually going to be talking about solo operators.
Yeah.
You and I have both been solo operators in the past. We will get into that. Next episode, we're going to be talking about company versus sole trader. That one's a little bit more involved.
I'm right in the middle. I'm trying to figure out where I sit.
You and I can both relate somewhat to that topic, so that's cool. Do we have any other housekeeping?
Oh, not really. How was your long weekend? Did you do much? I haven't really spoken to you.
Saturday was ordinary. The weather was horrible. It was gloomy as fuck. I get real depressed on that day.
Sad sack.
I just bought a house, and this current house that we're living in, we rent.
Yeah.
So we have open houses, which really bother me.
Yeah.
And because we got the dogs with no fencing or anything like that.
You're gonna put away all the dildos.
Yeah.
All the sex swingers that get packed back in the room.
The missus is just like, where do I put these?
Yeah. Where do I put my fucking battery packs?
Put them inside and let's go out for a walk. Anyway, bloody. So we got to cruise out. When I got back, I was just like all sort of, it was just a shit day. But I went out Saturday night.
Yep.
With the kids.
Where'd you go?
We went to this maritime museum. It's like a light show or something. It's real trippy.
Shit.
Bit of a rip-off. Cost us $100 for the family.
Yeah.
We walked in and it was weird as fuck. Like, I couldn't believe how many people were in there. And you sit down on these white beanbags and watch this movie, and it reminded me of remember Yvonne Etniage?
Yeah.
Simpsons?
Join the Navy. No way.
That's exactly what it was like. Like a picture of it looked like one of those old Russian spy mind fuck videos.
Yeah.
One of my girls was actually crying.
Are you kidding?
And was full mad freaked out. And I'm like, nah, man, this can't be, So anyway, walk through and you go through all these, and there's just lights and mirrors everywhere. But we walked into this room and there was just heaps of dead shits just sitting there, looking up at this screen, they were chilling out.
Oh.
And I was like, what the fuck is this place?
Oh.
Anyway, once we got into the big main, because I was being a fuckhead too, I was rolling, because Vicky had her phone out for Instagram, and I'm rolling around on the floor and, being a fuckhead. But it was funny as when the girls started getting into it, they're like, Dad, look in here, there's a slide. And there's this, you're in a room with these sheets up, and you could literally just walk up this big platform and go down the slide. So that was good, kept them busy.
What the fuck? Where the fuck was this?
At South Bank.
Is it just before? Just gotta make sure that fucking lights on.
So anyway, we were then going to go to. We did go to South Bank, but there was a little restaurant. I think it's called the Ship Inn.
Did you fight anyone there?
No fights.
No fights at South Bank. Fair enough.
But explain to everyone. I don't fight often.
Oh no! I was just
people try and fight me.
Yeah, people try and fight me too. But no, I was just referring one of my workers, Will. He went there and there was a guy just sitting on a bench, and they walked past him. They went and got a couple of drinks, and they came back, and they watched him get arrested. I think, or the cops were there, and he took off and. He left all of his needle drug paraphernalia just sitting on the bench in a park, a public park, where kids are running around.
You see some shady motherfuckers in there.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
Sure. But, man, we had an awesome steak and cool little night. Sunday, we went to the Currumbin Rock Pools.
Again, nice.
It was fucking freezing.
Was it?
So we needed to do something with it, because Monday was a public holiday in Queensland.
Yeah.
And we have back orders like anything.
Yeah.
So I knew that I'd be working all day. I mean, I worked Sunday night, but I knew I'd be working all day Monday to get orders ready to ship out Tuesday.
Yeah.
so we had said, which day is it that we're doing something with the kids?
Fuck, these 4 public holidays in a row have just been a bum fuck of a prick time. I'm not happy with it. Like, why there's 4 in a row, it's dog shit. That needs to be spread out a little bit better.
It's really harsh, yeah. So we'd actually love to hear, I mean, I'm sure that there's contractors out there that love them.
Yeah, when I worked for someone else, I didn't mind them, but now I work for myself, we just get a little bit behind and had a little staffing issue. Fucking, of course, get into that with this whole episode, but I had a fire at my house too.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck, mate.
If anyone wants to see, was that on Instagram?
It's on Instagram, yeah. So the night before, that was my elbow on the table. That was not my bottom. So
okay.
just make sure that is well known. But I was putting my daughter to bed and I could smell smoke and I was like, ew, that's a gross smelling smoke. I wonder where that's coming from. So I looked around the house just to double check and couldn't find anything, and the smell was just there all night. And then like I woke up at about 5:30, 6 o'clock, and I had Indian the night before, so, you know, clockwork, had to take a shit. So taking there, I was like taking a shit and I was like, fuck, I can smell that smoke. It's really bad. It's, you know, overpowering my shit. And yeah, all of a sudden I heard we've got a sensor ring camera out the front. So I looked at my phone and I saw flashing lights. I was like, what the fuck's going on out the front? It must be roadworks or something. And then all of a sudden I saw these 2 fireys running down my driveway with their hose. I was like, oh fuck. Oh, so I've jumped up.
That sounds so sexual to just 2 fireys.
I know.
Imagine if it was Tim the Mole-Man.
Oh yeah.
That'd be so funny.
I would have open mouth passion for sure. But no, like I jumped up, no shirt. I was like banging on a wall. Lou, wake up! There's a fire and it's at our house. So she's like, "What the fuck?" So I've run downstairs, shirtless, of course, you know, just to make a good impression to these fireys. I'm like, "What's going on here, guys?" Nah, I didn't. I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" And yeah, turns out my pool pump, either there was an electrical fault or something happened with the impeller, and some bullshit happened. And all my pool shed and all my...
Yeah, there's not much left of it.
No, and all my chemicals. So I had a couple of 4-litre bottles and a little bag of like, just like granular chlorine, and all of it, fuck, it made a bad stank. Yeah. But apparently, like, so the neighbours called it in, but no one bothered to tell us that there was a fire in our backyard. Like, no one came and rang the doorbell or anything. So I don't know if they didn't know exactly where it was.
Yeah.
But a lot of people have been like, why didn't they come and tell you? But either way, I'm happy it's out. Hopefully insurance sorts us out. If they don't, fuck them.
I never really experienced anything like that before. Probably where I've come close to it is where I live. I'm on 1/2 acre, but we have a 1 acre paddock next door.
Yep.
And it was in really bad condition. I'll try and keep this story quick. We cleared a lot of the land, and there was just, you know, some trees and shit that got bulldozed, and we had like one big pile of muck. And when I say one big pile, it was like, you know, probably 10 cube of green waste.
It's a lot.
And so, you know, I had always worked at a lot of acreage and rural properties where they do little burns, and I was like, oh, I'm going to do this because it wasn't my land, but I just wanted to use the land, but I don't like to look at muck. So I remember my wife was real nervous, and I was like, you know, you got to light it, and then you got to let it smolder, you know, and stuff like that. And anyway, I put some fuel in it, and I lit this thing up, man. And I was sensible, but fuck me, it was raging. And it was must have been some.
It was all cow cane, wasn't it?
So there was cow cane, there was wood and stuff like that, but there must have been like some green stuff still, because it was like a fucking smoke bomb, man. Now, the neighbours, so like I was really, you know, I had all hoses set up, everything was like, I was sensible in that sense, but it just was fucking raging. And the missus comes out, this is probably 2 hours later, and there's a post on Facebook on the local Win and What page, and they're like, oh, there's a fire at Lota, and they must be up on the hill on White's Road, and they actually show And it's an actual legit smoke bomb fucking thing where it looks like there's a proper house fire.
Shit.
And so it actually rained that night and I could not put this thing out. It all smoldered down and I hosed the shit out of it. It was raining. I ended up out there at 9 o'clock at night in the rain, turning this thing over constantly to just get moisture into it. Never really done that again.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't
only because,
recommend that.
Well, yeah, like I said, everything was under control, but we're not quite in the it's too densely residential still.
Yeah, the neighbours aren't that far away.
No, so that was fucking gnarly. So just quickly, I wanted to say on the podcast, we're going to get into the episode in a minute, but for all of our listeners, I just bought a house and it's on septic, and I've never been on septic before. And I do understand how septic works. Now, it turns out this house that I bought has this septic system that was created, maybe some point in the late 90s. It's called a Dalmas toilet. It's an external tank. Now, what I wanted to ask our listeners, it's a worm farm septic. Now, I did my research. It actually seems like an awesome system, and it uses like an ecosystem to... all the worms and beetles eat your shit. There's like a little chute where you can put all your veggie scraps and weeds and stuff.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, the concept is awesome. But there's not a great deal of info. There's no support because the company's gone bust. There was a little forum. There's a little bit of info. But I did want to ask our listeners. Now, I'm gonna bring Shorey in because he's a fucking hippie.
He's probably got some worms you can chuck in there.
Yeah. So you can buy the worms from Bunno's.
How many do you need?
Oh, fuck none.
Especially if I'm coming around, I'm going to have to bring my own worms.
But I did want to ask our listeners if anyone had any experience or knows anything, please reach out. Because I need an awesome heads up. I'm going to move my family in there in like 2 or 3 weeks. Now, there is no worms in there. It was like an old smack house, so there's actually like a H needle in there.
Some fucking drowsy worms.
Yeah, it's a bit of nasty stuff, but we're gonna rejuvenate all this and hopefully get shit going. I don't want to be that dude in the street because I don't think it's compliant.
Yeah.
And I don't have the $15,000 to put a new system in when we're moving in.
Yeah.
What I'm worried about is like neighbours being like, "Oh, hey, what's that smell?" But the system is supposed to work.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So if anyone out there has any experience,
hopefully someone's got some feedback for you. I'm sure.
Yeah. So that's legit. Like I need to know about that now. We're going to get into today's episode. It is going to be we're going to be talking about solo operators. Now we know that. There's some awesome companies out there, big companies, some national companies. Some of your skag mates have huge companies.
Big companies.
But today we're going to focus on the solo operator.
Yeah.
And, you and I have both been solo operators.
Not that long ago for me, that's for sure.
It has been quite some time for me now. But I guess, what we want to touch on the most is that there seems to be some sort of, say, stigma or some sort of precedence where if, to say that solo operators cannot either be successful or, you can't make a real living.
Yeah.
And you and I are here to say that is just not true.
No, not at all. I don't know, there's less overheads for one, but I don't know, there's something about working by yourself sometimes it's kind of nice. I sometimes miss it.
So, I was in a situation toward the tail end of my business where even though I had, say, 3 workers, usually I was out by myself.
Yeah.
And that was obviously a result of, now we will get to some of this stuff as we roll on with the episode.
Yeah.
But one thing that I always struggled with when I hired my first employee is you had to lead by example.
Yeah.
So you had to wake up every day at the right time, the agreed time. You had to be ready. Now, when you're in a solo environment, I think it's still great to be disciplined.
Yeah.
But if you have a little boop boop, it's okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I definitely know what you mean. So when I was going through some shit, I was solo, and I had zero motivation sometimes just to even get up and get going. Like,
yeah.
I'd still wake up and I'd help get the kids ready for school, but actually getting out the door to go to work was a difficult task.
Well, so I would say that I was always a little bit reversed in the sense that I was always very motivated every morning, but my motivation, so like back when I was a solo operator, my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, there was obviously a period where we didn't live together yet, so I could do whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
But when she moved in with me, she worked an office job, and she would get home at 5.
Oh,
so if I wanted to get home and have wank,
you gotta be home early.
No, not that early. Well, but you know what I mean? I had to also look like I'd done some shit around the house.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like to have that personal time that I wanted.
Personal time?
No, I'm not even talking about that.
Nah,
I'm just talking about, you know.
Trust me, I know.
Just chilling, you know. See, now that I've got kids, I had come to terms, you know, okay, that there is no more personal time.
No, it's all gone.
But, you know what I mean? Like I was very motivated to get home before 3 o'clock.
Yep.
So that I could, like I said, do whatever the fuck before I had. Even before I had kids. You know what I mean? So I was very motivated.
Yeah.
But you know, like I know solo operators who, you know, they're very comfortable in their routine. They're comfortable with the amount that they earn, and sometimes some of them even come home for a little friendship nap.
Yeah, I know who that is.
You know, and I can say that I've done this in the past as well. You know, you got the freedom.
I've never done it.
Yeah. Okay.
I've never done it.
Yeah. No, that's cool.
I kind of want to.
Well,
it sounds fun.
I tell you, you know, like I don't think in winter, you know, there's really a need.
That's what I would do.
In the summertime, it's fantastic because you can head out early.
Yeah.
And you know it's hot as fuck already by 9 o'clock. You push through till 11, come home, have a bit of lunch, can have a little friendship nap. You can go out again at 1 or 2 o'clock and you can stay out till 7.
Yeah.
Now, I think if you've got children and stuff, that's a little bit selfish. You know, because you're not around in those most important hours. From 3 to 7 with kids is a fucking disaster at the time. Really and I think anyone who does that by themselves, you know, shout out to all the single parents out there, mums or dads, it's a fucking awful time to be a parent.
Oh, even today with the podcast, like on the way here, my wife's like, I think one of the kids has broken their foot.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen. Can you ring me when you finish the first podcast? I'm like, okay. So
very tough. So like, we're shooting, so it's 4:30 in the afternoon right now, Queensland time. So you're right in the time where shit is about to get intense.
No, my wife
kids.
is all by herself with, a couple of monsters. But, you know, it is what it is.
So I think being a solo operator in that sense, whether you have a family or not, you have the flexibility that, whereas if you had employees that ran with you, or even if you had a team. So one thing that I found, something that you will know, is let's say you've got 2 employees, which you do, and you're a crook, and you're not feeling very well. You really still got to get up at 5:30, get the rig ready, make sure the boys have their schedules, give them all the notes for the day.
Yep.
You have to see them off.
Yeah.
And, you know, if really, I know in my experience when I was crook, that's the hardest part to push through. Yeah. Like you do that and you're like, oh fuck, I'm up now. I might as well fucking go and mow some lawns. So I just always found when you were a solo operator, everything is way more relaxed.
Yeah.
Now, also when you're talking about delegating tasks, now
it's all on you.
Yeah, and I think, you know, like look, I know you get times where you think, fuck. Yeah, this is as a solo operator. You think, I wish someone could fucking whip a snipper right now.
Oh, yeah. There's nothing better than having an extra pair of hands around.
And I think that's one thing about being a solo operator. Like, if you're a solo operator, you'll always say, like, God, I wish I had that extra pair of hands.
Yeah.
You know, to lift this grass bag or to rake up those clippings. But, you know, when you talk to some people that do employ one or two people, sometimes you're like, fuck, I wish I could just do it myself so that just so that I know that it's done.
And it's done right. Because that's the thing, like, everyone will always say it, like, no one cares about your business as much as you do. And you can tell, like, I've got a couple of employees and they're excellent. Like, they do a great job. But when I go back and have a look at what they've done, I'm like, oh, they could have tidied that a little bit more. They missed a couple of leaves. Like, I'm pretty OCD when it comes to cleaning up.
Yeah, and it can be one extreme to the other. Like, everyone's heard me talk about Rusty, for example.
Yeah.
He will do something to the best. He'll exceed all expectations, but he just doesn't understand value for money.
Yeah.
So and he's always over delivering, and it's always me that cops it.
Yeah.
Like, it's me that. And like I said, I won't get into that. I don't trip too hard on it because in our situation, he can still be profitable.
Yeah.
Whereas, a lot of small business environments, if you're fucking around or dragging your feet, it's really not worth that employee.
Like, even to the point where I used to hate when I had to take a shit during the day because I'd have to go find a public toilet, make sure it didn't have any scary men inside, and then that would waste like half an hour, and that's half an hour I could have been making money, and half an hour I could have gone home early.
And a lot of the time as a solo operator, I would just eat in the rig on the way to the next job,
same.
have a durry at the next job, and that was kind of me little chill.
Yeah.
I wasn't really, like, time was money.
Yeah.
So if you went and there's just no need for me to go and sit anywhere and eat when I could just eat in my rig.
Not only that, time is pretty valuable. When you're a solo operator, to turn a good profit, like, most of the time you're pretty well booked, solid.
Yeah.
So you have to make those deadlines, or you're just going to start getting behind. And
so can we talk about, let's say now everyone's overheads are going to change whether you are solo or not, but do you think it's accurate? I'll just ask you the question straight up. What do you think is a good turnover figure? So we're not going to worry about overheads, but what do you think is a pretty good turnover figure, whether it's a daily or weekly? What do you think is to be? So we're not going to judge anyone and say, okay, this is what you need to be successful. Because, like I said, someone might pay $700 to rent a house.
Yeah.
Someone might only pay $200. There's a lot of stuff in the mix.
So when I was solo, I tried to do $500 a day.
Yeah, so that's 2.5 turnover.
Yeah.
That's pretty much where I see now. The things might have changed in the last year or two.
Yeah.
I haven't been a solo operator for a long time.
Definitely, the cost of living has changed. I don't know.
So that's what I mean. It might be more these days, but then I also think each job has, like when I was a solo operator, we had tons of $50, say $55 residential lawns.
Yeah.
These days they're all going to be, those same jobs would be, say, $60 or $70.
Yeah.
So if the turnover, if we were off point there on that turnover, then you make it up a little bit.
I think $2,500 for someone who's a solo operator is probably a pretty good wage. I know, so I worked for other people for so long, and man, I wasn't even coming close to that. And I was working night shift and I was working overtime, and if I had 4 numbers in my paycheck, I was fucking ecstatic. So, yeah.
And I don't think as well it's difficult to turn over 2.5. As a solo operator, like I think it's a real achievable amount.
Yeah, it all depends on your lifestyle and probably where you live as well, because some socio-economical changes happen around the country where people can and can't afford certain things. So.
And I remember when as a solo operator, like I would have some days where I'd do $1,000, but then I'd have other days where I only did say $380 instead of $500 or whatever. So it would kind of offset. I think anywhere over $2. And you know, it was different back then. I wasn't leasing any machines. I owned my clipper. I was paying off a car, but it was kind of like my personal car as well. So it was easy to sort of and at the time the Hilux that I had was a pretty big upgrade from what I had always had before.
Well, I just jumped straight into a Hilux as well, and I was doing the same thing. I didn't have any debt for equipment, but I did for my car. While we're on the topic of equipment, what do you reckon a good solo operator should be, you know, trekking around with?
Well, because I consider myself good, I was just gonna say this is what I ran. Right. So, look, when I before we got into the ride-on mix, and you know, like I had been through several stages where I had people working for me, then I didn't. Then I had people working for me, then I didn't. It always got to a stage where I sold off some and downsized and was like, no, I'm going to be a solo operator. Yep. And then just through natural progression, it just was like, fuck, I need to put someone on. and it just kept happening. Yeah. But, you know, in those solo... So where I'm going with it is that I probably always had or carried more than what I really had to.
Yeah, fair enough.
But look, hey, I think as a solo operator, look, I really think you only need one hand blower. I don't think you need a backpack blower. I think that would depend on what sort of work you're actually physically doing. Because we need to really touch on the fact that if you're a solo operator, this does not mean that you have to mow $70 yards.
No.
You can be doing
one commercial site a day.
Or more if you want to. You know what I mean?
Like you could go, say one of my big contracts, you could be there a week.
So we already know Gary Ashton from Aussie Lawn Stars. He's essentially a solo operation. Now, he is putting someone on.
Yeah.
Look, I think that's more a result of not his business growing, but the podcast is growing and taking up time. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like,
oh, fuck yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, so blowing up like Vietnam. Look, I think when he's taking phone calls or doing interviews or talking to Ben or BJ.
No, Gaz doesn't talk to me. He only talks to you.
I call him.
You talk to me through him.
But, you know what I mean? Someone has to be doing some fucking work while that's happening.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he runs, say, one or two big commercial sites.
Yeah.
And I believe one of those sites is, like, similar hours but more money than, like, one of my sites.
Oh, okay.
So he's on the ball there. So it goes to show that you can have a really awesome, lucrative, you know, business being a solo operator. Back to the equipment. Look, I would always recommend 2 bipper dippers.
Okay. What about a bipper dipper and a combi?
Yeah, well, same diff.
Yeah.
So I just know, even when I had a brand new bip, as a solo operator, I just always felt like on really hot days when you're thrashing them out or whatever the case, or, you know, when you're airfilled, I just feel like a whippy is one of those things, they're just temperamental.
Yeah.
Now that we've got battery equipment, I would be recommending completely different. I'd say go out and get yourself a 2-stroke multi-head unit of whatever fucking brand you want. Try and pair it up with a brand that has a battery option that takes all the same tools, multi-tools.
Yep.
And I would run a petrol and a battery option, and you can switch between. That's what I would be recommending.
That makes sense.
If you're a solo operator, and I'm just going to use Still as a brand. I mean, what brands do it? Husky do it. Does Makita do it? Do those splines and multi-tools?
No idea.
Bushranger's coming out with one. Now, we know that Echo and Shindewa don't. Ego is out of the question because they don't do any piston units.
Yeah.
But what I am saying is, if you go and get yourself a Bushranger, a Still, or a Husky,
then you can
buy the petrol powerhead. You can buy all the attachments you need. Then you can buy a battery power head, and you can mix between the two when it makes sense.
Yeah.
And you've got a good backup.
Yeah, fucking cool.
So now look, I know most solo operators, they have more than one push mower.
Yeah.
And I think it is clever. Depends on the diversity of work.
Did you carry more than one at the same time?
I carried two. Back years ago when I had a truck, we just had room for two. So I just carried two because I didn't want to fucking leave one at home.
Yeah.
Later on in life, I only carried my mower that I physically used. And I wouldn't say I really needed to carry two. But I do know some guys have a little bit of a variety of jobs. Some guys are using those mulch masters.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Other people need to bag. It's way more diverse than what I...
Yeah.
But I also don't know that carrying two... Look, I guess if they don't perform the same task
Then,
and they earn money in their own right, like I know, let's say someone like... I'm just going to use Greg Anderson as an example. He's got the 30-inch Time Master, and I'm pretty sure he runs a Honda 21-inch or maybe a 19-inch. I think that's a pretty clever combo.
That's what I got the 30. I got the Skag 30.
Yeah,
and I've got
but if you if you were just, I'm not going to say you back then, but let's just say for some reason you end up being a solo operator today, would you carry both of those mowers? One being a 30, one being a 19 or 21?
To be honest, probably not.
Yeah, fair enough.
Probably not. Especially if I had.
So is it different? Is it different saying owning and carrying? Like, because when you're carrying them, you're out every day with them, right?
Yeah.
But you can still. Like, do you think if you were to become a solo operator, you'd go and sell one of those mowers right now?
Nah, fuck no. I'd keep it. But so I'd probably, if I was going back to solo, I would probably run with like a, obviously I'd change my runs, but I'd probably run a lot with the 32. To be honest, especially as a solo operator, fucking keep those legs fresh. You're already doing twice the walking.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know how to say it. It's so hard. Like, I'm just not a productive person anymore. Like, a couple of months ago, when I was still in Greenscape Solutions and I'd go out, I did fuck all push mowing, by the way. I had some hedging jobs, mostly riding.
I don't do push mowing anymore.
Yeah, and look, don't get me wrong, I still... like our business, we just didn't have any push mowing in our business. Yeah. Like we just,
Oh, we got heaps. I just delegate that to the boys.
Yeah, fair enough. But it's just hard for me to really put myself in that situation because, man, every 2 minutes I was doing something with Catch Pro. Like it just, the last couple of years, I just haven't been able to really... I can't use the last 2 or 3 years as a good example of me being a contractor.
Fair enough. There's a lot of advantages to being a solo operator. There's definitely the stress factor is really not there because you don't have to rely on anyone else but yourself. And you really, your limitations. If you push them, then you know that you can, always push back. If you're sick, you can't do anything about it. But
I think
you never have to wonder if you've gone out to the coast or something when you've said you're sick.
Yeah. I do think it's a little bit worse for your headspace. Like I think I may have talked about this previously, but I remember there was days where like I wouldn't talk to anyone. If I didn't see any clients, if I packed my own lunch, you know what I mean? Talking on the phone wasn't, like, don't get me wrong, you could do it, but, like everyone else is fucking working. Who are you going to talk to?
You need a hug.
Well, or to just talk.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
We used to talk on the phone. When I first started, I know exactly what you mean because I used to be like, I wonder what Ben's doing. I can call you up.
Yeah.
Hey, man, what are you doing?
Just because you need to fucking talk to someone.
And I couldn't really, most of the time I'd call my wife a couple of times a day to see how her day's going, but I couldn't really call her and talk shit the way I could talk to you, like...
Yeah, like, I just saw this real hot chick, she bent over at the bus stop.
Yeah, she farted, it was great. I've got dog shit in my eyebrows or something like that.
Stephen Bukaki's weren't a thing back then.
Yeah, Stephen Bukaki.
If I called my wife, she'd be like, is everything okay? And then once we got past that, she'd be like, look, do you just want to fucking talk to me when you get home?
Oh, no. I call my wife. If I call too early, though, she'll be like, is everything okay? Did you crash? I'll be like, no, I didn't fucking crash.
Yeah.
Because, why would I call so quickly after leaving? I'll be like, I fucking left me coffee on the bench.
My wife already knows, like, how the phone call's going to go depending on my first little hello. Remember Ross from Friends? He has like, hi. Yeah, sometimes I go there, like, when shit's getting real bad, and you're like, hi. And she's like, what happened?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, fucking, typical shit. Pop the tyre, shit on your face. Fucking machines, fuck.
Yeah.
Or, So, yeah, look, I think definitely your headspace with the solo operator. Like, I think you need to be... I think it's harder to be in a good place.
Yeah.
Because sometimes that pressure, man, it builds up. It builds up so much, and you've really only got yourself to rely on. So, like we said, that can be really, really great, therapeutic, and relieving.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's not.
I totally get, like, now when I go out and I work by myself, so if I jump on the 40 acres by myself, I'm kind of like I can sort of have a breather, plug my tunes in. As soon as that phone rings, I'm like, fuck, I have to look at it. If it's not one of the boys saying something's going wrong, I'm like, I can just chill out because I know, like, I'm in charge of my space. I know what I'm doing, and no one can fuck that up but me.
Yeah. Now, we should probably touch on, for the solo operators that are out there, like, when is the times that you're sort of thinking of... Now, this episode is not about employees, but if you're a solo operator, when is it time to take the jump? Obviously, I think if you're doing consistently in excess of, say, 2.5 turnover, it's probably time to start looking.
Yeah. When opportunities come knocking.
Yeah, I mean...
That's what I didn't really have a choice.
So let's say you're a solo operator, you're doing around that 2.5, you might be doing more, you might be doing less, and you get a call for a commercial site, and they're like, we need someone for 4 hours a week. That's already a great opportunity. I mean, imagine being busy and then trying to find half a day every week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they're probably the situations where it's like, okay, it's time to take the next step.
Totally agree. Or like in a village situation, like one of my villages is 4 days a week for someone by themselves.
That's right, yeah. So you can absolutely, like, I think as a solo operator, you can make tons and tons and tons of money, but I don't think the sky is the limit. I think that you get to a point where one person can only do so much.
They can only be so many places.
There are different markets, but look, I've heard some absurd numbers out there, and I'm not going to call anyone out, but like, you hear of solo operators, making $5,000 a week turnover and stuff like that. Do you think that that's true?
Yeah.
Like, do you think a solo operator can do $1,000 a day solo every day? Because I got to be honest.
I don't think consistent. Like,
I don't think consistent.
No, I don't think so. I definitely think you can make $1,000 a day on some days, but you're fucking pushing hard.
Yeah. So I don't think. I mean, I used to do it ages ago.
Yeah.
Like, I would have certain days on, say, like a 2-week schedule.
Yeah.
I might have 2 days where the turnover was $1,000 or $1,100 or whatever.
Yeah.
And I used to even think about it at the time, because I always had ambitions, and I was always looking to take the next step, and I was always hunting and searching and thinking about possibilities. And I just remember thinking all the time, it would be fucking hard.
Yeah.
To make $1,000 as a solo operator every single day.
Yeah, well, I reckon I've had maybe one or 2 weeks where I've made $1,000 a day, and that was, I had a landscaping job that was about, I was probably doing that a day. So, but it only went for 3 days, and then the other 2 I had to smash all my mowing jobs and get it done. So I was fucking overloaded.
Yeah. So I wonder what it would mean. Obviously, and I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. I'm just trying to think of how many lawns. Let's say you've got $70 lawns, so you're looking at trying to mow, what's that, like, say 15 lawns.
Yeah.
Look, like I said, I actually think that now that I think about it, I think it's probably achievable, but to do it every single day, and to me, it doesn't mean shit if you do it. Let's say you do that consistently through the summer, you make $5,000, and for some reason you got to post about it, or whatever. It just doesn't mean shit to me unless you do it in winter as well. Because when you look at the financial year, like, you know, if you haven't done it every week, then that's not what you're doing. You're not actually doing 5,000 a week.
No.
You know what I mean? So
I guess, you know, like, there's always the guys.
I'm not trying to have a stab at anyone.
No, I know there's probably guys out there who do like prestigious fucking acreages and things like that, or they specialise in something that, you know, I can't think of, but well,
when you look at the guys that are doing, say, cylinder mowing or turf renos, some of that specialised stuff, then yes, I think you can. But are you really doing that day in and day out?
Yeah, that's true.
And like, even if you are doing prestigious acreage properties, you know, how many of them can you really do in a day? And what are they really worth? Because to me, 5 acres is 5 acres. You know what I mean? Like, the job is cheaper if you have less whippersnipping. Or if it's, you know, maybe the grass isn't as long, or it's more of a regular cut or whatever. But 5 acres is fucking 5 acres. You know, whether it's green and nice, doesn't, you know what I mean? You still have to roll over.
That's it. The thing is too, like, you know, maybe someone is charging, you know, 200. We've seen some fucking absurd numbers. Like, some people saying they're charging $300 an acre, and
$300 is an acre for an acre to me is just a fucking rip off. And you know, maybe I could be outdated, but even if you looked at let's say a semi-normal price of, let's just say, $150 an acre, which I still think is pretty expensive.
Like, if you're charging $300 an acre, you have to whippersnip all the boundaries, do the driveway, all that shit. That's a bit of a different story, but it just straight up is completely.
So, but even when you're saying that, if someone called me and they said, "Hey man, I have a 1 acre lot, and what I require is you to mow, whippersnip, and blow," I would still say that $300 is maybe a little bit heavy. I'm not sure that I would necessarily.
Realistically, on a machine, like a decent machine, an acre is fucking, you know what, 20 minutes mowing?
Tops, like, I mean, my V-ride would just, you know what I mean? Like, you sort of punch out 2 acres like you know.
It's like a normal backyard.
So, you know what I mean? Now,
again, there's so many variables, like when people are talking about prices and swinging dicks and like.
But even in an area where, let's say it's high density of that type of stuff, like, you're really still having to do. It's really that's really a lot of business, I think.
Like, realistically, in winter is when you should be throwing big dollars every day, because you're doing cleanups, mulch jobs, shit like that, like the value added stuff. Standard mowing, like, it'd be hard to get those big numbers. I couldn't do it consistently. Maybe I just was. It was a while ago. It was like 5 or 6 years ago, but maybe
because I would even say, as a 2-man crew, I think it's pretty easy to do. But I still think you kind of got to be on the ball.
Well, 15,
to do 5,000.
15 lawns a day is a decent amount of lawns.
Well, I mean, like I said, we would never even. That's just not how. Like, even when I ran as a 2-man crew, to make $5,000, I mean, we were doing, you know, complexes and stuff like that as well. But you know what I mean? Like,
maybe there are guys out there that have specialised in residential mowing. I did actually. Michael Carroll sent me something about a company. I can't remember the name, and they have a flyer, and they have all their prices on it, and a 500 square meter block, they're charging $125.
Yeah. Okay.
So
that's fucking.
That's pretty. That's pretty meaty. That's a fucking good price for 500 square meter block.
With a house on it?
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know what a building envelope is these days, but, like, a 500 square block shouldn't be any more than $70 mo.
No. That's what Michael said.
I think even potentially, I'm just trying to think.
Yeah, like, it's probably only like a $66 or $70 mo, something like that.
Yeah, so...
Although...
I mean, this episode is not about pricing, but what we're trying to do is give solo operators maybe a rough idea.
Yeah.
And we don't want to make anyone feel like they're not successful.
And again, these are just our experiences. We're not fucking singling anyone out. We're not talking any shit about anyone. We're just saying this is how we have come up in the business.
Yeah, so like I said, as a solo operator, I don't think I ever did consistently. I don't think I ever did any more than, say, 2.5.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think I was probably more of a 2 guy. Now, it was going back some years.
Yeah, it was. It was when it was fucking before I even started, wasn't it?
Oh, I mean...
Yeah, it would have been.
Like, I've had state... So, my twins are 9. The last time... So, like, I had workers for probably 4 years before I had them.
Yeah.
When I had the twins was when I went back to being a solo operator.
Yeah.
And that probably lasted maybe 18 months.
Yes.
And I didn't have any regularity then anyway.
You probably went back to...
I was fucking feeding 2 preemie babies. They had the cunts... they had... My bad. They had to be fed every 2 hours, and by the time you feed a baby, burp it, change it, and then wake the next one up, you might as well, you just tagging in, you tag yourself in. Apologies about the little slip up there.
It's cool,
so
man.
I actually got a call, I'm not going to say it, I got a call during the week from someone that I talk to regularly, and someone had been talking to them about our podcast and said that they actually don't really like to listen to it because of the language. And so if that person is listening, look, we are sorry. I just think we've really probably set the precedence, for what we are.
That's
and
seriously.
Who we are.
We literally, I rolled up. These are our notes.
Yeah, like we don't even have.
We just chat about a subject. We just take things that we've done in our business, talk about them. This is all natural. There's no scripts. There's no bullshit. We don't beat around the bush, and we talk to each other like we have for the last 20-something years.
Yeah,
so,
and as you can see, we have the occasional boop slip up. So,
to be honest, that's the one thing we try not to do, and one will sneak in now and again.
And I don't always refer to my twin daughters as C words, by the way.
that's the
maybe just occasionally. Okay, so where were we?
I can only imagine what fucking twins would have been like.
Yeah, so it's probably why my hair's grey at 36. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the equipment. I don't think we need to talk too much about your actual daily hours because I just think that there's so much to unpack there.
Now, as a solo operator, how did you cover yourself for sick days and injuries and shit like that?
So, I used to have a motto, and it was, I don't have time to be sick. And that was legit.
And where did that fucking end up going to? The hospital with pneumonia?
When I had the C's.
Yeah.
The first time I got really crook with pneumonia was actually just before they were born.
Yeah.
And I do remember it was like a tough period in my life, and I do think sometimes when you get a little bit run down emotionally and physically, I'm not super spiritual, by the way, but I do think sometimes when you're getting run down, you're a little bit fatigued, things like that, your immune system gets down and that shit, just intensifies. And that's where it all went to shit for me. Really, from when I had my kids until they probably started year 1, we were just a family of sick people.
Yeah.
Either someone always had a runny nose or a cough or something.
Feeling the pain now.
I've been really lucky. Once I got pneumonia the second time, I started getting the flu shot.
Yep.
Now pneumonia is bacterial. It's not viral.
Yeah.
So, but I did get very sick with a viral infection, just common flu, and I do believe that spurred into the bacterial thing both times. But mate, since we've been getting the flu shot, mate, I haven't been sick.
Oh god, that's good.
Haven't had COVID yet. That's probably going to change. We know it's inevitable. But
speaking of COVID, how's this? A bloke at one of my villages today came out with a mask on, and I was like, "Oh, how you going, mate?" He goes, "Yeah, not too bad. Got COVID." I was like, "The fuck are you doing in my face?" Like he's literally right in my face. I just saw that.
Trying to fucking swirl me coffee, and I've spilt it all everywhere.
Oh, looks like diarrhea. But yeah, he's like. From me to the camera away, no one can see that but you. But he's just having a chat,
Yeah, I think it's actually really irresponsible.
And he's a pharmacist.
And I'm not even a fucking responsible person.
No, me neither.
So, look, handling sicknesses, I think when you're solo, I do think the good times outweigh the bad.
Yeah,
look, I think I think probably rainy weather is more of a factor than anything. And I think sometimes you just got to man up.
Yeah.
Now, I do remember, so many different weather issues. It's really difficult to get motivated.
You've gone through the whole run, haven't you? You've gone from like drought to floods, probably back to drought.
I've done it all, brother.
Yeah. I haven't had to deal with the drought yet. I've had to deal with Oh no.
No, yeah, I'd say you would.
I would have actually.
I'd say 36 months ago.
Yeah, we did have.
It looked like the whole. It was like right when we started up Catch Pro. It was bad.
Yeah.
I know people in Bundy, people down south. Sydney.
And here's you building something to fucking catch grass, and there's no grass growing.
Well, I got to be honest. The reason why we got over it all was you could vacuum leaves really easily. Not that we ever advertised that, but that's what we use the Catch Pro for.
Yeah.
Look, I do think, I can't remember if I've talked about it. I talked about it recently on some threads, but I do think this pigment dye there's a few different companies that do it.
Yeah.
But I think if anyone ever goes through any hardship again, weather-wise, we head into droughts, because it is going to happen.
Yeah.
It's cycles. I mean, I think we're probably good for the next year or two.
And then it'll kick back in.
And I can really see this pigment dye really taking off and being great for contractors and homeowners alike, because they can come out. I'm telling you now, when I paint my lawn, I actually go and make a coffee and go and roll a ciggy, and I get all stoked, and I just fucking sit and look at my lawn because it looks so fucking green. It makes me happy.
Yeah. How's the serenity?
So I think if you could sell it to the potential client in that sense and really master how you do it, then I think it can be fantastic. Not only that, if you got rentals or there's an auction coming up, or someone's got a fucking party, you could really sell it to the client. Now, you don't want to do it the day before, or you'll have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles running around everywhere. It doesn't stain, but you do want to give it a day or two to just marry in. And it probably looks a little bit more natural if you do that. Little sidebar there. So, what else do we want to cover about solo operators? Because we've talked a little bit about sick leave. We just talked a bit about the weather. What about annual leave? Any sort of annual leaves? Now, I think it's easier to handle.
Yeah, I do too. So I haven't had a holiday really since a proper holiday. Not Christmas. Christmas was a bonus this year. We got 10 days. But I mean a holiday where I fucking pack my car and my kids and go for a drive somewhere for a week.
I mean, I haven't either, but we see contractors. I think one guy, Stephen Greeny's mowing. Yeah. He packs up fucking May or June. So I follow his business page, which is just Greeny's mowing, and he just put a post up on his Facebook saying to all my clientele, thank you for the great season. I'm heading out to the sticks for the winter. I'll be servicing you again in September. And now whether he was away that whole time or not, but you know what I mean? Like he just packed his shit up and went away for like 3 months.
So he must be in. Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
So I know he must be somewhere near the Camden region now.
And do they really shut down there? Like,
well, I mean, Clint from Camden doesn't seem to. He's always busy.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on.
He's got so many
doing tons of shit. He's doing tons of shit now.
Fingers in every pie.
I don't think Greenie was always in that area. He might have been from Hawkesbury. Hawkesbury.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know that Gary, like I know Gary.
I'm a Brisbane guy. I don't know where the
Yeah, I know Gary said that he really starts to shut down and his grass doesn't grow much at all.
Like he said something crazy like it was fucking 11 degrees the other day, and I was like, man, we haven't seen nothing like that
since
maybe
it's so fucking hot. Like every second I put down my drink, I'm like, oh my god, I'm so thirsty.
And but I was like, I'm so hot.
Yeah, it's so hot now. I'm sweating. But no, we don't really shut down like that here. Like we'll probably go a month. We can go like monthly.
Look,
I could probably go 3 weeks. To be honest, I could probably still cut lawns every 3 weeks.
I'm no lie. Like I probably still mow my place every week.
Yeah.
But I don't need to. I'd be tipping.
Like right now it's still fortnightly. Like there's no doubt in my mind that we won't be coming off fortnightly. I'm still mowing weekly at a couple of acreages. So
I'm still cutting my paddock twice a week.
Yeah.
To make it nice.
Yeah,
to make it nice. You know.
Well, these are the acreage, like my sort of prestiges, and they're fucking still on me. Like, you still need to come.
And there's still hedge growth and everything. Like, so
no worries.
So in terms of annual leave, I mean, geez, I just haven't. And earlier on in my life, like I wasn't the richest person. Like because I was a business owner, I never had the travel bug. I never had ambitions to fucking go overseas or do anything like that, and maybe half a week getaways, coastal. That was surf and trip.
Yeah,
that's probably all. That's all I really ever wanted. But to answer your question, I think dealing with holidays and any sort of leave situations are much easier as a solo operator. Because you have to delegate so much.
Yeah, and your customers will completely understand if you need a holiday. But see, like now that I'm in the big body corporate world, like where I've got villages that need to be serviced weekly or year round,
well,
they're not as forgiving. Although one of them did come to me and say, you better be taking the whole 10 days off this year for Christmas. And I was like, I wasn't planning on it. And he's like, no, take it. Don't worry about us. Just fucking take it off. So... if you have a fortnightly cycle, then in winter, really your cycle should allow you to, because technically it means if your work starts going monthly, you've only got half the amount. Like you need to find 50% more work to even be making that up. And usually you would find that in gardening, hedging, tree reductions, mulching, etc. Well, the thing is when you're a solo operator, like if you go for a week, nothing's going to go wrong in that week. But when you have staff, and you go for a week, they're still working. So much shit can go wrong.
Yeah, and then you get a little message and you just see like the trailer ramp is just fucking minced.
Or a fucking
oops.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'll just park it at your house and you can fucking deal with that.
Yeah. Sorry about this because I'm a fuckhead.
No one's going to listen to us. You can't use language like that, Ben.
Soz.
Nah, but seriously, like. That sort of shit can fuck your holidays. Like, well, look, I went down to Melbourne. One of my staff was supposed to come pick up my my rig at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm sitting there, I'm fucking hungover, like, just looking at the menu thinking, what will not make me shit my pants and spew on myself? And I'm just sitting there, like, I was thinking, I haven't heard the ring camera go off, because I get a notification wherever I am, and I opened it up and I sort of strolled the camera across to look down the driveway. I'm like, my fucking stuff's still there. Like, why isn't it going? So I ring this dude or message him. I'm like, what's going on, man? He's like, I locked my keys in the car. I can't get in. I'm like, get a fucking Uber to my house. My keys are there. You can keep the rig until I come home. And then all of a sudden he magically found his fucking keys and here he toddles up, Yeah,
I think that's all. Yeah, that's always.
That was a stressful morning. trying to keep a spew in and trying to deal with staff, 700 kilometres away.
And since you've expanded, do you often think, or do you regularly think, like, fuck, I wish I just kept it small and just, kept things to myself? Like, do you think you would be, it's different, you got a bunch of machines and you got a bunch of really cool jobs, but do you ever sort of think to yourself, geez, I think maybe I was happier then?
Yes and no. So
there's no right answer.
No. So financially, I'm fucking sound as a pound. But when it comes to my stress levels, they're like off the charts, especially lately. Like I've shuffling staff around and shit happening. So that's pretty much it. Like it's a, there's a give and take. It's just a balance, man. Like everything, you got to find that balance. And when you can't get the staff that you need, and if they've got issues at home, like when you take on staff, you become everything. You're their fucking mentor, you're their mum, you're their dad, you're their shoulder to cry on, you're their bank, you're everything to them. So yeah,
fucking psychiatrist.
Oh yeah, but then on the other hand, they don't care as much as you do because it's not their gig. Like they're not reaping the same benefits that you are. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's a very hard thing to cross over from solo to having a staff member, but I personally think it was worth it. I had a long time where I had staff and zero issues.
Yeah.
But then I jumped up the next level, jumped up staff numbers, and then with more staff comes more responsibility, comes more dramas. So
yeah. Now, can we quickly talk about hourly rates as solo operators? Because I'm completely against it and I don't recommend it in any way, shape, or form. Now, the reason why I don't is let's just pick $70 as an hourly rate. I know some people are under this. I know some people are over this. I would probably say that we're around that mark. Yep. Obviously, I don't do this anymore, but haven't been out of it long. So, like this is what I looked at. And I'm sure that there's tons of businesses that don't, they just believe, no, you just quote the job.
Yeah.
And, if you have a win, you have a win, which hopefully you do every single time. If you don't have a win, well, we'll make it up over here by doing X.
Yeah.
But look, the reason why I just can't stand an hourly rate is usually if you're doing residential mowing, you'll never use an hourly rate. You quote every single job, right? So then let's say you do a $70 job and it takes you like 45 minutes to, that's a turnkey operation.
Yep.
To pull up, unload the snipper, do that, mow, you've cleaned, you've blown everything, 45-minute turnaround, which I think is good money.
Yeah.
Really good money, actually. Then, a client rings and they want a hedge done or they want a bunch of weeding done and you say, okay, $70 an hour. So you'll sit on your fucking ass hand weeding, or you'll bust your ass climbing up a ladder hedging and doing all this stuff. An hour's flown by and you're like, when that hour has flown by, you could be like, man, I could have pulled up to the next job and already done the biffing by now. Now, when you have two people, that's where I think it's golden, because a offsider, like a good offsider, is probably only really costing you around $35 an hour. That's like with everything.
Yeah.
And if you're charging them at 70,
then yeah.
And so let's just say you're making 40 off them. You're really earning 120 an hour.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the hourly rates are really great.
Yeah.
But as solo operators, I hate every bit about it.
Yeah, I used to hate when someone would ask me to do a lawn and they want a separate quote for an hour of gardening every visit as well, so they could see,
That was always very tough because I didn't want to...
Number one, I don't want to fucking be on my hands and knees waiting all for an hour.
Yeah, and I think that's the whole stigma with hourly rates these days is you still get a lot of skepticism and slander around, well, they're like, oh, didn't someone make a comment to you? Or maybe it was to me, I can't remember. Didn't someone say, like, oh, it doesn't even cost me that much to get my car detailed? Oh. Was that you? And, like, I remember when you told me, and I'm like, ooh, well, that's what the fuck?
Today, so I'm allowed to do work at a complex now, front and back, in their private property. Guy's got a fucking 16, 17 foot tree in front of his house, a golden pender, and he's like, I want this cut in half. It's really gotten out of hand. I'm like, yeah, well, it's been like 6 months, 7 months since we actually touched it last, because all that sort of stuff came off of our books. And he's like, oh, what do you charge? I was like, oh, look, because we used to do it, and, it's difficult for them to, think about paying for something they got for free for like 27 years. I was just like, we'll knock it down for, $200. Now that is fucking cheap. Like, that is cheap as shit. Like, normally I'd charge like nearly $350 for that job. But I was like, $200. He's on the committee, so sweeten the deal. And he goes, not a fucking chance. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, feel free to get as many quotes as you want, mate. So, I was like, fucking hell, like, some people are still, like, stuck in the mindset. He's an older bloke.
Now, there is, like, right now I'm on the other side of this because I bought this house. Yep. It's got a back deck. It doesn't have stairs on the back deck. So I just want everyone to sort of just understand this story. Because we often see posts about, let's stay firm on our prices and let's do this. And sometimes I almost feel like it comes with a chip on the shoulder. Yeah. And I do think it's important to be firm. Yeah. I think if you're busy, that's great. Yeah. Oh. Where I have a problem with it is you've got new business owners who are all of a sudden like, oh, I was charging $50 an hour. And I saw on LMCA or I heard on a podcast I should be charging $70. And I'm sitting here thinking like, no, not necessarily. No. Like, if you've got someone like me or you who maybe has 15 years experience, fully equipped, fully insured, knows exactly what they're doing, can offer an A+ service, why does some new person who has to actually ask what they're being, why do they get to charge that amount? Now, you can charge that amount, and I think if you've got good quality work, go for it. Yeah. But I don't, always see. Yeah. But anyway, my experience was, got someone in, he's immediately looked at this. Now, I had a price in my head. Yeah. I'm thinking like, now I'm not a chippy. Yeah. But I had a rough price, and I thought, I'm hoping this comes in around 6-ish, 7.5 maybe at worst. Yeah. And he's just straight hit me with, this is probably going to be about 8 to 10. And it just felt heavy to me. Really? Yeah. It felt heavy. Now, it's not a small flight of stairs, it's 17 treads. Yeah. So it's a big deck. It's high. So 17 treads, so it's not messing around. But, I just was, and I immediately thought about all the conversations that we see and those types of things. And I thought, is this contractor just being, is this chippy just one of these dudes who's like I'm busy right now, I can fucking put whatever I want on? Yeah. Or is he one of these dudes, he's not going to budge or not going to work with me to try and make the price better? Yeah. I went and got another opinion. And this dude, full qualified, legit business, everything, he can do it for 6. Okay. Oh, nice. You know what I mean? And it's like, I think for me, I'm going to go the 6. Yeah. It's hard to say who would have the better workmanship. Yep. You really don't know. No. But, you know what I mean? I've looked around at materials. I can figure out rough material price is going to be around 3 or 4. This dude's going to charge me maybe 2.5 grand labor. Yeah. As opposed to someone who's going to charge me 4 to 5. Yeah. It
was the same with the concreters. We had to shop around. We had to one concreter come in at like 9.5. We had one come in at 7. We had one come in at 14. And I was like, holy shit. So obviously we went, it's a fucking slab. So we went with the cheapy guy. So they did hit a water pipe. So that was an instant. Well, I think it was a sewage pipe actually. So that was an instant price increase. And they had to get a plumber out. So there was an extra $600 on top of that. But, you know, they did a fantastic job. Like you said, I don't know what the other guys would have been like. But it's a fucking slab. Like, it's a big block of concrete. I didn't need anything fancy. I just needed something for my shed to live on.
Yeah, and I think solo operators in our game as well need to be a little bit aware that if someone's cheaper, it doesn't mean that they're less, their workmanship is going to be less. It doesn't mean, now I know that sounds rich coming from me who has just said, new operators.
Yeah.
But you can be a new operator and charge that money and maybe even be worth more.
Yeah.
It's just that, you know what I mean? Like,
and some guys just have no overheads.
Absolutely. We've talked about Gary on the podcast, the guy who comes to my village.
Yeah.
And you know him now.
Yeah.
Fantastic guy, fantastic worker. He charges $35 an hour.
Yep.
And he's fucking happy as Larry. He owns his own home. He doesn't run a ton of gear.
And he's looking after like a lot of like elderly. So he's
at our village he is. I'm not sure what the rest of his business is like. But you know what I mean? Like you don't look at him and see any hardship or any, you know what I mean? Like he's living a good life.
Yeah.
So it just depends, like, now is he someone like you who has 3 children, 2 workers, 4 machines, 2 rigs? You know what I mean? It's different.
It's all about aspirations too, like where you want to head. I mean, some people are quite content to earn enough to live and to put a little bit in the bank. Some people want to live and put a lot in the bank. Some people want to buy a house. Like, so many different people work for so many different reasons. So, it's all each to their own, I guess. So wherever you want to send your business, whether you want to stay solo, I guess go for it. There's no right or wrong answers when you own your own business. That's why I don't really, like, I'd never say to someone, oh, you're running your business wrong. Even if they, like, I thought, fuck.
I could.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well,
that's the thing. Like, what I mean by that is, like, I think, so, yeah, maybe I don't know. Like, I certainly don't want to offend any of our listeners because I appreciate the support, but I am very much under the, I see some people struggling and you see some people venting and saying stuff, and I always think to myself, does that person wake up at 6 o'clock every day? Do they get to their first lawn at 7? Are they setting themselves up for the best opportunity ever?
Yeah.
Because the way that I always looked at it, and this is actually no shit, like, on rain days, for example, my boys, we always met, it wouldn't even matter if it was pelting.
Yeah.
And we always went to the first job at 7 o'clock. We always, we might wait around for a little bit, see if there's a little bit of a break. We might just get wet. At a certain point, let's say it just did not stop raining. At 9 o'clock, fuck it, boys, let's go home. We had a stab at it.
Yeah.
Now, I've been there where we have had situations where it's like, no, boys, don't come in, it's a rain day. Fucking 8:30, the sun's shining.
Yeah.
You ring up the boys, hey man, come in. Oh fuck man, I'm down the coast now, eh?
Yeah.
And it's like, you told them that we're not working, and it's difficult to get them to come back in.
Yeah.
And it's those types of situations, and even lots of people buying, say, tons of secondhand machines or leaving their machines out in the rain. Doing all of these things make me question, because I went through it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I had my machines in the rain for years and years and years, and I had so many issues with throttle cables and air filters, and you know what I mean? And you have to be able to learn as you go along, and you have to be disciplined.
Yeah, it's different to offering advice to criticizing and being like, yeah, you're failing. But
yeah, don't get me wrong, I don't want, and I also wouldn't get any satisfaction out of I mean,
if you do get your rocks off for fucking belittling people, that's no good.
No, look, I think being able to, I've got people around me. I'm just going to use Rusty as an example.
Yeah.
Greenscape Solutions, that was my business. All the big contracts went to you. Some of the medium-sized ones went to Rusty.
Yep.
And he's out on his own now. Now, I know Rusty's flaws.
Yeah.
He's not the most organised person. It can be something as simple as you finish work on a Friday and you know that you've got no fuel, right? You know that you got to go and get fuel.
Yeah.
And you might have a little bit in your snipper tank, you might have a little bit left in your mower tank, and you still just go out on Monday morning to your first job.
Yeah.
Knowing that you might run out of fuel there, or maybe you'll run out on the next job.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine if you just went to the servo and filled your fucking jerry cans up.
Imagine.
Either on the Friday or the Monday before work.
Yeah, that makes me cringe. Imagine getting to your first job and getting like 80% through it and running out of fuel.
Yeah, so that was the type of person that I have been before.
Yeah.
And that's why I can be passionate about saying, I think that is wrong. Some people might be like, oh, that Catchbro guy's a fuckhead, but it really is, like I've had situations where like I knew I had a hedge trimming job and I knew that my rake was on its last legs. Like I knew it could fucking snap. And I just could not be fucked going down the hardware store to get a rake.
Yeah.
What do? Get on the job, you start raking up, you're like, oh shit. This thing just snapped in half.
Right angles.
And then, you got to leave the job and you got to go and do it, or you got to improvise in some way. It's those types of things. It's those types of things, right?
Yeah.
So,
it's the fundamentals that you have to, you get, and it just makes things roll along pretty smooth.
That was a pretty organic sidebar.
Yeah.
So we might get ready to wrap this one up.
Yep, bruv.
Look, I hope everyone liked this episode today on solo operators, and I hope it was able to shed some light on what is possible for a solo operator. I do think, whilst I don't think the sky is the limit, I still think anyone can be super successful.
Yeah.
And if you manage your funds the right way, you can be even way more successful.
Yeah.
Do I think crews or teams can make way more money? I do.
Yeah.
And I think the sky's the limit there, because whether you're using hourly rates or whether you're, whatever it is, I just think you can earn more.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for listening. Give us your feedback.
Please jump on and leave some reviews. We're getting like 1,000 downloads a week now plus. So if anyone who's new to the podcast could jump on and give us reviews, that would help us out so much.
Maybe we should run a competition. I don't know, maybe I'll give like a whipper gripper away or a 2 trimmer rack, and to be in the draw you got to leave us a review.
Yeah, sweet.
If you want to handle that, I'll give away the prize.
Okay. Well, you heard it here first.
Give us your feedback on that.
Yep.
The main thing is that if the numbers are there for the downloads.
Yeah.
For us to attract some sponsorship,
it's got
probably need some. I can't remember what it is. I think you need 200 reviews.
Yeah, and we are really not.
So we're about a quarter away there.
You guys heard it first. Get your reviews coming in, and tell your friends, tell your dad, tell your mum, tell your auntie, tell your uncle. I pulled up a random contractor today. I'd seen him across the road a couple of times. I'm like, hey, how you going, bud? And I wasn't very talkative, but I'm like, oh, you like listening to podcasts? Straight up, just feeding him. Hey, lawn care skull station, fucking good one, eh?
Yeah, he's pretty like, who the fuck?
No, he was straight up like, ugh, this piece of shit. I was just like, real happy, bubbly dude. Give us some love.
Yeah.
Fucking whatever. Hey, and if also anyone who's looking for some new workwear, jump on to badworkwear.com.au, enter in skull in all caps, and you can get yourself a sweet 10% off at the checkout.
And they have some mad new lines coming now. This stuff is not here yet. I believe dropping in the next month.
Fuck yeah!
I don't have too much more to say about it, only because I just know that there's some new stuff coming.
Yeah.
Definitely worth keeping an eye out. Thank you as always to the lovely D Scarlett for putting us up.
Yeah.
And, that's good repping that stuff.
Yeah, man.
Until Sunday, I am Ben at Catch Pro. This is BJ at TBL, and we are out of time.
Peace.